Welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me, as always, is new Michael, Kevin Jank.
Don't you be telling my name to the people, just for a hit of that smack.
Yes, and because that's what Karen Page does. In today's episode, we'll be reviewing or reading and enjoying Daredevil issue 228 from 1985, I believe this was, when this came out.
Sounds right.
And this is the second part of the Born Again storyline.
Oh, what a good storyline. Yeah. Possibly the greatest comic book ever written.
Because right now in the world of America, Born Again, the Daredevil's TV show is out on Disney+. So we like to think of how we can tie into current events.
That's right. Even though the TV series is completely unconnected from this storyline.
Yes, no connection whatsoever. But it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Name only. Yeah.
So, all right. Before we get started, though, on Born Again, let's remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Hey, Jank, get a load of this. We're up to 346 subscribers. So we jumped 8 last week.
I saw that Quasar is getting a bunch of views.
Quasar's doing numbers, man.
Who would have thought? People love that aquarium.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. He's already like doubled up like Spider-Man, and like, oh, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
The people have spoken. Every other week, it'll be Quasar. That's what it's going to be. So, get ready.
They needed a new home.
Also, let's remind everyone to get to 500, Jank is going to make me read Dark Knight Returns every week for a month.
I mean, we're doing Born Again right now, which is another Frank Miller classic, so we should, I know you want us to do Dark Knight Returns, so get us to 500.
Yes. Hey, we're actually getting relatively close. Maybe another year. We'll get there.
Maybe another 5 years. And we'll be there.
So, also I have a book out there called Monkey Flip about a chimp detective. And it's swell. And, you should also subscribe to my author newsletter, list.19books.com, and you can hear all about monkey news and all kind of stuff. It'll be great. You'll love it.
Definitely you should open
it. Yeah. He doesn't open it or look at it, but he subscribes. And that's the kind of support I need. So let's do it. All right, so this issue, it's Daredevil Born Again. Now, when I was a kid, I started reading Daredevil like maybe a year after this happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just missed it. So then when I found out about it, I'm like, oh, man, I just missed it. But, like I started reading with like Ann Nesenti.
A fry cook. I didn't even know he was a lawyer.
He was a fry cook for a while. But I was reading during the Ann Nesenti, John Romita Jr. stuff, at a Typhoid Mary. That's when I started really buying it. And that was like 87-ish. So, I just missed out on the Born Again. But I was able to... I think the first time I ever encountered it was the trade paperback, which was published in 1987. And I had a great little cover on the front there of him, like, jumping through with Karen Page and, like, the stained glass windows behind him at the cathedral.
Black background, yep.
Definitely
got that from when I was a kid.
Yeah, so that's when I first encountered the Born Again, and I read it, and I love it. I just couldn't get enough of it. And then a couple years after that, I was able to actually get some of the actual issues because a local comic book store has gone out of business. They're selling everything for $1. And they had like I don't know how many. I don't think I have every issue of Born Again run, but I probably have at least 3 or 4 of them. So that's nice.
Yeah, I still have all of them. I probably won't end up selling them because they're not really worth that much anyway, and the sentimentality is worth more than the couple of bucks you get for them.
Yeah. So, all right, well, of course, we talked about Daredevil, and I'm sure everyone knows Daredevil, but his first appearance, Daredevil 1, what a coincidence, 1964, created by Stan Lee and Bill Everett. One of the few big stars not created by Lee and Kirby. Bill Everett.
It's kind of lost to history.
Although Kirby did have a hand in designing his first yellow costume.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wally Wood came in issue 7, and he came up with the red outfit. So thank you,
Which makes
Wally
more
Wood.
sense.
Yes, I don't know what curve you were
Evelyn's
thinking
name. Yeah.
with the yellow, but anyway. So of course, Matt Murdock, he was a little fella being raised by his dad, a boxer, battling Jack Murdock, right? Is it Jack?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jack.
And the mob killed his dad when he refused to throw a fight.
Ooh.
So, but before that, Matt had an accident.
That's right. It's an important part of the story. Yeah.
Important part
He was,
of comic book history as well. Explain why, Jack.
yeah. So, the story goes that Matt was, walking down the street and he saw this this old man walking in front of a truck in the street, and he dove in to save him, pushed the old man out of the way. And, while he did not get hit by the truck because the truck swerved, he did end up getting a big face full of chemicals that the truck was hauling. It kind of tipped over and spilled right in his eyes, and burned his eyes pretty good, and left him blind for the rest of his life.
But
Yeah, there may be more to that story in certain other universes.
Yes.
As we've talked about it before, where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were basically a parody / ripoff of Daredevil comics at the time. Like basically the hand ninjas became the foot ninjas over in the Ninja Turtle universe, and the turtles themselves were created by when a young boy was almost hit or by a truck and a bunch of chemicals spilled down the sewer, where there happened to be like 4 little turtles wandering around. Yeah. So that same accident could have created the Ninja Turtles if, people's their rights issues.
And the Turtles. And also, while he was rendered blind, it gave him super senses, radar senses, and heightened smell, taste, all that stuff, touch. So he's got the radar, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And he was called, then of course when his dad was murdered by the mob, he avenged his dad, and he called himself Daredevil because when he was a kid, he was so timid, all the other kids made fun of him, saying, "Hey, Daredevil, you like to take it, like he was such a shy little fella."
Yep.
But,
they teased him with it, and he took it on as his own.
And of course, he wanted to be a lawyer, and his dad always made him study in school and everything, so he went on to be a lawyer, and his best buddy is Foggy Nelson.
Yeah, college room.
And they started a Murdoch and Nelson, or is it Nelson and Murdoch, I guess is the name of it, right? Attorneys at Law? Something. Yep. Yeah. And they worked out of Hell's Kitchen, and they defended, the righteous folk against injustice, right? Is that how it goes? And,
yeah, because Daredevil, he could use his super hearing to hear people's heartbeats, so he would always know if you were telling the truth or not. Like if you're really innocent or if you're just BSing him, he could always tell.
Yeah. And they had a buddy, secretary, Karen Page.
That's right. Yeah. Key part of this story, is her journey. He has been out of
yes.
She at a certain point, I guess she found out about who Daredevil was and Matt Murdock's secret identity there, but it was too much for her at a certain point, and she wanted to go to California to try to become a big movie star.
That's
so
right.
She's like, this New York.
It's like her history almost, parallels yours, Jank. Remember when you went to LA to become a big movie star and you ended up doing porn? You remember that?
Broke. I needed the money.
Because that's what happened to Karen Page, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, Page was out of the book there for several years, and but then Frank Miller comes along and he brings her back for the Born Again.
The most unexpected way possible, I would say.
Yes. She was a sweet, innocent lass, started out in the 60s there, and now she's doing porn and turning tricks for smack.
Yeah.
So,
not a storyline you could have done in Spider-Man, I don't feel like. Kind of had to be a Daredevil thing.
Yeah, Born Again, the storyline runs from issues 227 to 233. I will say the last 2 issues get very superhero-y. And
it's kind of like an addendum almost. Like there's the post, basically just like, okay, the big conclusion there is kind of 2 issues before. And then that's just kind of like slowly setting up his new status quo almost.
Yeah, they tie things up and, they stick it to, Kingpin's the big adversary here in the storyline. And at the end, he sticks it to Kingpin. But you see him and, Karen reunited and everything's good.
Yeah.
And
Kind of big dramatic, climax of the story is she finally makes her way back to him and they embrace and it's just like, oh, even though everything's shit for both of them, like they've got each other. At least that's something.
Yeah, like that's when they initially, before those final two issues. And then, like you mentioned, he has to take a job working as a short order cook at a diner.
Yeah.
And
I think they spot somewhere. Aren't they just kind of squatting in some like ramshackle place? Like,
yeah, they don't have a lot of money or anything. So, and then the final panel of the whole storyline is him and Karen arm in arm walking down the street, and she's all clean now and off the heroin.
Yeah.
Smiling. Two young lovers in the city. So.
Sadly, she learns to, give up the heroin at just the wrong time. Like, apparently, like she needed that one last hit real bad, but then after that, she feels so bad about it that she's able to quit cold turkey. It's like, if only you could have done that like one day ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah, I think the guilt of giving up Matt is what spurned her to try and change, right?
Yeah.
But, all right, so we're getting ahead. The creators here, of course, Frank Miller, as Jenk mentioned, and David Mazzucchelli.
Did you look it up? Find out?
I did.
For sure.
I watched a video of him teaching a class on storytelling through comics, and he opens the class by explaining how to say his name, because I guess no one knows it, but he says, if you just break it down, you know how to say pizza, the ZZ in pizza, and then at the end there, it's just like zucchini, KKI, and the zucchini. So it's Mazzucchelli.
Oh, okay.
He says it real Italian. Mazzucchelli. But
Mazzucchelli.
Either way. He seems like a really nice fella. He's the artist here, and we'll talk about him maybe after. Because we've never talked about Mazzucchelli here on the show, and I'm a big, big fan. And we've talked about Miller several times. But how many here? I thought this was interesting. That let's talk about them both right now. But Frank Miller, he only had how many penciling credits do you think he had at Marvel? Frank Miller.
Well, he was on Daredevil for how many issues? Yeah. Frank Miller, the Wolverine, like 4-issue limited series. That Spider-Man annual for sure.
You're counting each individual issue, yes.
Yep.
Wait, 66. Mario Lemieux, 66.
50. All right.
I thought that was a little light. I'm like, I was kind of surprised when I saw that. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess once he started doing less. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had like 150 covers or something, but 66 penciling credits. He drew what's that?
Some of his covers are atrocious.
Oh, there you. He did the big Purple Man cover with.
Yeah, no, back then it was great, but there's like a recent Wolverine you should see where it's just like, ugh, that's hideous.
But he drew Daredevil issue 158 to 161, then 162 to 184, and then 191. And he wrote Daredevil 165 to 191, 219. And 226 to 233. So he went away there. But yeah, when he was drawing the book, I think Roger McKenzie was the writer at the time, and I think I referred to him maybe as Roger Stern last week when we were trying to remember who's the writer.
It was Roger Sterling.
It was Roger. I had that much. It was Roger McKenzie, and he did not like Roger McKenzie's scripts. So I can't remember who the editor was at this time. I don't think, but they just said, "All right, you're fired, Roger McKenzie. Hey, Frank Miller, you can take over the book." And once he took over the book, it just skyrocketed to stardom because he took over. What did I say with issue 165 as the writer artist, and 168 is when he introduced Elektra, and off and running. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Frank Miller really is kind of responsible for most of the things you would associate with Daredevil.
Yes.
Like Stan kind of came up with the origin, and that's kind of about it.
Yeah, Daredevil's my favorite hero, but if you ever go back and you read the first, 100 or so issues, not so good.
We did one of those, remember, on this show not too long ago, where he was like working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and fighting just no-name on the helicarrier or something. And I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Even the early Stan Lee ones were not good. Yeah, Stan Lee seemed to put all his energy into Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and then everything else just kind of, whatever. But
yeah.
So yeah, when the book it was not popular at all. It was being published bi-monthly, and then when Miller came in, it became their top-selling book for the entire company. And that was during Claremont and Byrne X-Men times, So that's a big deal. So
yep. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yep. So he also did, of course, Elektra Assassin for Marvel, and
no pencil or credit on that.
I loved issue 1 of that book, and then I tapped out halfway through issue 2. I'm out. Not so good.
Yeah. For a guy, the guy who invented Elektra, I don't know that he was ever the best at writing Elektra. Like, I've read that storyline the first time recently, and she's kind of not in there a lot, and they kind of briefly mention her past with Matt, but don't really get into it very much. So it's kind of like, this isn't very particularly well told. Not nearly as well told as he did here in Born Again. But then when he did Man Without Fear, that limited series later on that kind of recounted Daredevil's origin, that I thought was much better. Like, that was a very good story about Matt and Elektra.
Yeah, that's one of his other penciling credits at Marvel. Elektra, originally, the idea of Elektra was way better. The look of Elektra was what really sold everything, She just looked awesome. So,
yeah.
All right, so that's Frank Miller's history of Daredevil. And now let's talk about David Mazzucchelli, born 1960 in Providence, Rhode Island. And he went to the Rhode Island School of Design and began working in comics during the early 1980s. He started out doing fill-in jobs at Marvel before becoming the regular artist on Daredevil. He had 30 penciling credits at Marvel. That's it. Including Daredevil 206, 208 to 217, 220 to 223, and 225 to 233. And he actually wrote Daredevil issue 210, which is his only writing credit at Marvel.
Oh.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, those between issues between Frank Miller's first run and his little second run here, usually not so good. I feel like those are not the best.
Yeah, he when Frank Miller left the book, they asked him to come back for one more run, and he said he'd only do it if he liked David Mazzucchelli as the artist. He said, I want him as the artist. And so, how about that? And he collaborated with Miller again on Batman Year One.
That's right. Another book we should do at some point.
Yeah, I'd read it for Mazzucchelli. And it was serialized in Batman issues 404 to 407 in 1987, and then it was later, published as a paperback. Did you? I'm guessing you've read it.
Oh yes, definitely read it. Very good.
Yeah, I have not, but maybe I will.
Yeah. Miller, David Mazzucchelli. Yep.
So that was only just a year basically after Born Again. They're doing that. And then Mazzucchelli then started working on his own personal projects and independently published 3 issues of an anthology called Rubber Blanket.
Okay. With a name like that, how could it not take off?
I looked at it today, and it's other artists, and creators are involved as well. But he did a lot of the stories, and the art is vastly different than this. It's more like experimental, cartoony kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I would say I remember of Year One, it's a little bit different too. It's kind of simpler looking.
And he co-edited that with his wife, a lady named Richmond Lewis. And she's an artist as well. They probably met at art school, I'm guessing. And if you notice in this book, the colorist for this issue of Daredevil is R. Lewis. That is Richmond Lewis. Yeah. She's an actual painter artist, and she's kind of, I guess, successful. But she just went into comics because he wanted her to be in his world a little bit. So,
nice.
Yeah, how about that?
They wanted to work together.
In 1994, he teamed with writer Paul Karasik. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. To do City of Glass. Did you ever hear of this?
Nope.
Neither did I. Apparently, it's popular. In 2009, he did the graphic novel Asterios Polyp for Ranthion Books. And
you're just like putting random words together now at this point.
Asterios Polyp. And it won all kind of awards and whatnot. Like the New York Times selected it as like a book of the year, and the LA Writers Critic or whatever gave it an award. I don't know. It was very popular. It was 344 pages.
Damn.
Yeah.
Stephen King of comic books.
Oh, that's a graphic novel. 344 pages. I flipped through it there today. It basically just follows a guy's life. He's a professor at Cornell, an architect and a professor, and his apartment where he's lived burns down, got struck by lightning and burns down. So he kind of like restarts his life over and somewhere else. And but I don't know. It's
going great till his stereo got polyps.
No, that's his name. Asterios Polyp. He's a Greek fellow. That's his name. But anyway, so you could check that out sometime if you want. And then he kind of got out of, he's like all those years he was doing like independent books or projects for various publishers, but he wasn't like on any superhero. Like he did Daredevil, Born Again, and Batman Year One. Where do you go from there? You know?
That's true. Yeah, Frank Miller didn't have such a good time rebounding from those. So
Mazzucchelli got out when the going was good. And he became a teacher at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan and the Rhode Island School of Design. And I believe he just recently retired from teaching. So, but there you go. That's basically.
It's the guy who is very Italian and from Rhode Island. That's got to be an atrocious accent. Like...
No, he talks. Yeah, like I said, I watched a class he was teaching. You can get it on YouTube, and he seems like a very nice fella. Just a very humble, cool guy. So yeah. Yep.
Good.
And all right. So, anything else about Mazzucchelli that you would like to tell the people?
He's very talented.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And we'll really break down his art here because he does a lot of amazing things. All right, so let's look at the cover, I guess. Nothing else to. Well, maybe we'll catch people up real quick on the whole story of Born Again. In issue 1, Kingpin gets the secret identity of Daredevil from an informant who, like, Karen Page sold it to somebody down in Mexico. This guy says, "Oh, this could be worth something." So he like sells it up the ladder, and it gets the Kingpin. And one of the first Kingpin says, "Oh, I could use this." And then he orders all the people who learned about Daredevil's secret identity to be murdered.
Yeah.
He doesn't want anyone else. Yeah.
Yep.
So that means Karen's not running for her life too, because there's people trying to kill her. And but now that he's got this knowledge, what does he do, Jank?
Well, he pulls out all the stops just fucking with Matt Murdock's life. I think he starts like with an IRS audit or something, so like is getting all of his finances cut off. And then I think they have like a cop lie about something, right? To end up getting him disbarred.
A cop says that he testifies in court that he saw Matt Murdock pay a witness to commit perjury or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so then Matt gets his law license revoked, so he can no longer be a lawyer. And at the same time, Foggy Nelson, his partner has gone on to work somewhere else. And so he's not working, they're not working together anymore. And also Foggy is now dating like a girl that Matt was going out with. So things are real awkward there.
Yeah, this girl broke up with Murdock, and then on the rebound, Foggy got her. And so Matt's not happy about this. And then the Kingpin kind of just takes, puts the final nail in the coffin there and just blows up Matt Murdock's building. He like lived, I think he had the office and his apartment was in the same building, right? I think so. And
Yeah.
yeah, he just arrives home and boom, everything blows up. So his whole life is just gone. Everything's gone. He's got no
It's a
money.
great ending where it's just
Yeah.
like, I thought maybe these things were all just a coincidence or something at first, but it's a great piece of work, Kingpin. You shouldn't have signed it. Yeah, that's good writing.
So that's where this episode picks up, and then we'll talk about how things go at the end. Then, so all right, describe this cover for us, Shay.
Okay, it's quite the unique cover. Little corner box, no pictures, no Daredevil. They just a very small Marvel in a white box with black font, and then we get the Daredevil logo all in yellow. And most of the cover is just a giant, super close up of Matt Murdock's face. He's got his green sunglasses on, his red hair, and it's kind of a very strange, like up the nose shot of him. And there's these pink like cracks going across the right side, like he's showing his mind is cracking under all the strain of everything he's been going through. And the very bottom it just says purgatory.
Yeah, this is a great cover. This is Mazzucchelli, of course, and there's a lot of Catholic symbolism in here throughout. Like, I think issue 1 was titled like Apocalypse, and this is Purgatory, and then I know one was Saved, right?
Oh yeah, I think that's like yeah.
Can't remember the others, but yeah, it's a great cover because you can just see like the emotion in his eyes. He's anxious, fearful, like he's sweating. He's got sweat over his face, and
He's kind of unshaved. He's got the stubble going on.
And just the cracked image. So you know that, oh man, Matt Murdock's losing his mind. And I really love how they left out the character corner box to not, obstruct the eye there. And the Daredevil in all yellow, but it's the thick black outline around it's great too. Yeah, this is a very arresting cover. If you saw this on the newsstand when you were looking, like this would stick out. It's like, holy hell, look at that.
Yep.
It's
not the usual, like, oh, there's Daredevil and he's jumping and here's some guy trying to punch him or something like that. This is definitely, this would get your attention.
Yeah, we should say, like, you mentioned the pink breaks in the image. Like, the image is actually distorted by them, too. It's not like it's just laid over top. Like, it's like a broken mirror almost.
Kind of, cracked. Yeah. Like, it doesn't line up because the cracks breaking it up.
But that just lends to the, breaking of his mind. So
yeah.
Yeah, because he's losing it. Yeah. He's losing it.
Paranoid at this point. Thinks everyone's against him.
So we open up and we get a shot, an exterior establishing shot of Foggy's apartment. I guess it's his apartment.
Yeah.
And not the lady's. And what's her name again? The Colleen or something like that?
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing we really should have looked up.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
I'm sure that's at some point.
Glory. Oh, yeah, Glory Hannah O'Brien. Yeah, it's right there.
Oh,
I knew it was Irish or something. Yeah.
Sure, and her name is Glory. Like Chief O'Hara in the old Babbitt. Yeah.
And Foggy's trying to change a light bulb, and she's telling him to be careful. He slips off the thing, and he falls on his butt. And they're having, a nice little humorous time there between.
Scene here.
Yeah. It seems like, oh, everything's cheerful and happy in this book. And then the phone rings, and Gloriana picks up the phone, and she says, hello. And this is a great sequence of panels here. The first panel on the left, she's looking kind of happy, smiling, and picking up the phone. And the second panel, she's horrified at what she's hearing on the phone. The third panel, she's covering her face, and Foggy says, Glory, what? And then the fourth panel is a close-up of her face, and she's crying, and she looks very distraught. And she says, Foggy was Matt, and he didn't make any sense. So,
stop talking about comet ping pong.
Yeah. Conspiracy reference. But look at that. What Mazzucchelli does there is great.
Just, she's got one tear kind of forming there.
So now we turn the page and we get a big splash page, and it's a shot from above, and we see Matt Murdock curled up in bed, at a very fancy hotel room.
Yeah, very swanky. This is kind of my only issue with the entire storyline, I guess.
Wow, really?
Like, and it's not this book's fault because it works for this book. It's perfect. But why wouldn't he just go to like the Avengers or the Fantastic Four and be like, "Hey, can I stay here?
Well, yeah.
Can you give me a room? Like, you live in a mansion with a bunch of rooms. Can you hide
Well,
me
he
from
kind
the?"
of touches on that, doesn't he? He kind of touches on it here because he says, "Why don't I go stay with a friend when there's no friends I'd want to stay with?" Or he says something along those lines.
You know, Tasha is on the Avengers. She can get you in there.
But they've been, on and off. But he says, place smells like rat hair. I'd much rather stay with a friend. Show me one and I'll stay with them. Show me one single person in the world who hasn't betrayed me. So yeah, he's just really bitter and paranoid, and he doesn't want to be around anyone at the moment.
I do like that there was one, I think, issue of Amazing Spider-Man that kind of touches on what Spider-Man's doing in all of this. Like,
oh, really?
Pat calls him and was like ranting and raving, and at some point he's like, don't try to help me, like, don't get involved, like, I don't want Kingpin to come after you or something like that. So,
well, if you recall, in the early days of the Daredevil, there was a time where Spider-Man accidentally revealed Daredevil's secret identity.
ooh,
And
yikes.
Daredevil created another personality. Matt Murdock created a personality, Mike Murdock. Remember that?
Made up brother, yeah.
That was all kind of during that time. So
We
don't talk about Mike Murdock too much. We just
well, what's worse is he eventually became a real person later on.
But anyway, getting back to this, yeah, he says this is really dingy one room, very closet sized hotel room.
I think they said at one point, he says, like, I had $10 left to my name. This place charges. I went to a place that, made change for, it was $8.
Yeah, this was $8, this room.
Yeah.
Left me with $10 to my name. I found a hotel that made change. And there it is. So, yeah, he's just not in a good space mentally here. And he's trying to, he's narrating. All his scenes are narrated first person.
Yeah.
And he's trying to piece it together, what he's got to do. And he says, I'm just trying to hear to think. How about that rat under the bed? See that guy?
He's got a nice roommate.
Yeah. He seems like a nice guy because he's there in like every panel you see under the bed. He's just hanging out down there, That's
not working for the Kingpin, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Murdoch thinks everybody's working for the Kingpin. One minor quibble in the art of David Mazzucchelli, I just noticed. If you look at the one shot where he's sitting on the bed and the rat's beneath the bed, that doorknob is so low on that door.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the doorknob's there for the mouse or the rat. But otherwise,
the worst thing your art does, I'm okay with it.
So he's just trying to think of what he needs to do. He's coming up with a plan, and he's thinking everybody's out to get him, and then he's trying to fight that off. He's like, no, it's the Kingpin. The Kingpin, yeah, he's the guy who's out. It's not everyone else, just the Kingpin. I got to get the Kingpin.
Somehow the Kingpin found out I'm Daredevil. He bribed and threatened everybody it took to destroy me. And so he's like, yep, I'm going to get him. I'm going to go to the Kingpin, and I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to get up, walk right out the door, and go kill him. And he's like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
He just lays down. So I think this book probably taught you many things about your life. This is where you learn all your...
I was going to take a nap.
I'm going to go fix my life. Oh, but I'm so tired. I'm just going to take a nap.
Well, we should say he also he says he's going to go kill Kingpin, but then he says, no, I won't kill him. I don't do that. I'll just beat him until he promises to give me my life back. I'll get up right this minute and walk to the door and leave the room. And then the second panel is just a real close up of the doorknob. Then the third panel, he's back in bed, shot from above, taking his nap. I'm tired. Yeah. Again, great storytelling there by Mazzucchelli with the doorknob. And now we cut over and we see the Kingpin.
Yeah, very different story here. He's loving life.
Yes.
Wallowing in his own crapulence right now. He's like, yeah, like Daredevil really wasn't even that big of a thorn in my side. Like, I never really cared about him that much, but now that I can just like pull the wings off of this fly, like this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's just an annoying little gnat, a fly, nothing to worry about, It's not like he ever cost my business all that much, but he's a real pain in the ass, that Daredevil.
Yeah.
And I love it. But yeah, he's standing in his like penthouse apartment overlooking the city, and it's snowing out there, and it's he's on top of the world, this Kingpin.
Just evil smile on his face. So good.
Yeah, because the first panel we see him from behind as he's looking over the city. Second panel, side view, as he's smoking a cigar. And then the third panel, he's looking right at the camera and smiling. And the last bit of writing here, the Kingpin looks at a city and thinks of how wonderful it is to be alive. And we cut back to Matt Murdock, and he's not looking so good. He's still taking his nap. And his little mouth. Yeah, the rat is also napping. But he says, you know what? I got to go get something to eat. I got $2 left. That'll get me some food. And so he pulls on his boots and he puts on his winter coat.
Yeah,
and it's quite the iconic look for Born Again. He's wearing this puffy blue winter coat. And
yeah. Good thing he had that on him before the place blew up.
Yeah, and he's got like these reddish brown gloves on, and he's like,
and I'll hit the gym. No gym. The Kingpin blew it up. Maybe I'll hit the Kingpin. He'd make a good punching bag. He's fat enough. Take that, Kingpin.
And he's like, walk out the door. So he opens the door and out he goes. And then we turn the page and we see a fantasy in his image in his mind of him standing above the Kingpin, blood pouring off his fists, and the Kingpin's out on his back out cold and his face is all hammered and blood everywhere. And yeah. How about that?
But then it turns out the panel, he actually never left the room at all. He's still there in bed.
He's taking another nap.
Yep.
He has to do fake radio later. He needs a nap. So,
that's right.
But then he calls up. At least his room's got a phone, and he prank calls. Foggy calls him up again.
He's probably just heavy breathing. Be like,
Yeah, she picks up and she's like, no, Matt, please don't say such. What do you think he's saying?
I know.
And then Foggy says, let me speak to him, Glory. And he gets the phone. He's like, Matt, this is Foggy. And then he hung up. What the devil was wrong with him? So that's a shame. But then as soon as I hang up, the phone starts ringing again. She's like, oh, Foggy. And Foggy's just holding her there. She's crying. And we cut to a close-up of Matt's mouth there. And he's like, I'm on to you, Nelson. And he hangs up.
Yep.
He's losing his mind.
He's gone loose.
And
so was knocking on the door.
Yeah, and we get we see the door, and he hears the footsteps of someone coming up. And then in the middle panel, we get a close up of his face, kind of like the cover of the book. And then the third panel, a close up of the door, the big knock there to raise the tension. And look, his little rat buddy's between his feet too, getting ready to help. That little rat guy.
Yes, he's like
he's such a good little guy. So what happens here, Jack?
So the manager's like, well, checkout was at noon, you bum. So get $50 or you're out on your, and then Daredevil just kind of grabs him and chokes him out.
Yeah, with one hand.
Hand on the throat, just blah, chokes him. And leaves his body there in the hallway.
Yeah, because he thinks he's the Kingpin sent him,
Yeah.
This is just the landlord.
He wants $8. He's like the little kid in Better Off Dead.
He's like, no point in questioning him. I know who sent him, and I'm coming for you, Kingpin. And yeah, we should mention Richmond Lewis, as we talked about Mazzucchelli's wife. She did the coloring here. There's a lot of great coloring here in this book as well.
Yeah.
Like the panel of him walking away from the passed out guy. The art's great because it's a tilted perspective of him walking away, but everything's in red just to show you, the anger he's got as he's storming off. And then the very next panel is a shot of the city, and it's all in blues and yellows, and so it's
pinks.
Yeah, it's pretty great coloring as well.
Yep.
All right, so now Kingpin's in his he's working out as he likes to do.
Here's the beefcake shot for all the ladies. Kingpin in his underpants.
Yeah, Kingpin likes to exercise in his underpants.
Yep.
Big purple underpants.
He's like the Hulk of underpants.
Yeah, he shops at the same place where Banner gets his pants. So, but he's sitting on a bench doing pushing a press ups of a giant barbell, like with hundreds of pounds on each side, and he's got this little guy in a plaid coat and a notepad and a pencil there, and he's been following Murdoch around, watching his actions. And he's giving a detailed report.
He's trying to be like all proper and like use fancy words, but he keeps like messing them up, like saying the wrong things.
And he gives Kingpin a detailed report of what he's been seeing from Murdoch, and he says his behavior is very odd. And he relates a sequence of events down on a subway train where Murdoch is just sitting quietly while some thugs are holding people up at gunpoint, and Kingpin's like, and Murdoch did nothing? And he's like, well, not at this moment, but he sat there quietly while an old guy was getting punched in the face, an old lady was getting a necklace stolen. But then when the thugs put the gun to Murdoch, he went all Daredevil on him. And he
yeah, that's some shit.
This is great. He breaks the one guy's wrist, punches him in the sternum, crushes him, and then kicks him in the face. His jaw explodes like a Coke bottle. And just again, Mazzucchelli, he's so good at the fluid movements of the fight. It always drove me nuts watching fights when guys would like not punch the way you're supposed to punch, like, or they'd throw two left. Like Daredevil, every movement flows into the next. And it's very natural.
I would agree.
So there's a 3-panel sequence here as well. Where he's punching one of the thugs in the face with the right hand, then he comes up with the left that drives him back into the glass of the subway door, and then we get another perspective shot, so now we're looking in through the window as Murdoch cracks him with another right hand to really shatter the glass, and blood comes out. But notice the panel there, the third panel is no longer a rectangle, has rounded edges like the window, and that brings even more emphasis on that panel, and the coloring there.
His mental state still, yeah. And it's incredibly violent, more so than usual Daredevil fights, so you can tell he's losing his marbles.
And Kingpin's loving it. He's hearing this as he's working out, and he's like, oh, this is the best. And so a cop shows up when they get to the stop, and the door's open, and Murdoch, instead of explaining the situation, he just grabs the cop, steals his billy club, and conks him under the jaw to knock him out. And so now he's got a billy club.
Uh-oh.
Going after the Kingpin. And the Kingpin says, read what the Kingpin says.
I could not dream of a more perfect hell. I envy you, blessed little worm. You have witnessed the death of a noble man. The pleasures of his coming attack will be nothing compared to this.
You think he's coming here?
I know it.
So now we cut to Murdoch on the street at a payphone, and he's again a 4-panel sequence left to right, and again the coloring, it's great. But he's like pouring out his soul to Foggy on the other end. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, Foggy. I'm trying to. But it's like
I think I'm sick. There's something wrong with my mind.
I just beat up a cop. Yeah, like what is going on?
Kingpin and everybody's looking for him. Like, this is all getting out of hand. So I got to go there, I'll try to kill the Kingpin. But okay, buddy, I'll give it my best shot. And then he just drops the phone, and the phone's dangling there, and you hear coming out of the phone, at the tone, the time will be 10:32.
Yes, just talking to the operator. And, yeah, he's all oatmeal north of the eyebrows, this Matt Murdoch. He's lost.
Sure is. He is gonzo.
Now we cut down to like Tijuana or wherever the hell Karen Page is, and she's trying to call Matt from a payphone in some cantina there. And the operator's like, hey, there's no such number,
Yeah. She's like, Matt would never move.
He loves that building. Yeah. But that building's not there anymore, Karen. Yeah.
Blows up.
And she knows there's people after her as well. So,
Yeah. She kind of spots people looking around for her, so she's like, "Oh, I'm out of here. Time to run."
And we cut back to Matt walking down the street. We see him from the back. He's got the billy club at his hip. And we see the Kingpin's building in the background, all glowing orange, green. And then we get a close up of his face, and we see the building and his reflection in his glasses.
Getting closer.
And we cut to the Daily Bugle, and Ben Urich is in there with J. Jonah Jameson. And Ben Urich's trying to say, hey, this stuff with Matt Murdock, it's all a scam, you know. Someone's framing him. I want to investigate this story. And Jonah's like, why do you care about some blind lawyer? You know, what do you care?
Yeah. Ben Urich does know who, Daredevil is at this point.
Yes.
But he's kept it a secret. He has not written the story. He's kind of has a deal with Matt. Like, he's like, this guy's good. I'm not going to expose him.
But yeah, Ben Urich is a very prominent character in all this as well.
Yeah.
I was always a big Ben Urich guy. I like Urich.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's very, trustworthy and, stand-up guy.
He needs to cut back on the cigarettes, you know? But
yeah, that's for sure.
How about him and Jonah both smoking a dart in the office?
Like an episode of Mad Men in here.
So now what does Jonah say here? It isn't like you to take a stand, Ben. And then we cut to Murdoch, and he's walking in the offices of the Kingpin, and a lady opens the door for him. She's like, come right in, Mr. Murdoch. Mr. Fisk is expecting you.
That's why he's wearing his underpants.
Then we get two panels of Foggy's in Glory again, and they're just staring at the phone. Again, the phone's in the foreground, they're in the background. Again, the coloring. It's great.
He's not calling us.
Yeah.
At least we knew it live then.
Now they're worried that he's not prank calling. And then we get two panels of Matt being led to the office by the secretary. And again, the coloring here is all purples and greens. And then we turn the page, and in the foreground, we get old Kingpin's big fat legs and feet.
Yeah, Kingpin's got ankles.
He does have cankles. And Matt Murdock's in the background and by the door. And again, look how low the door. That's a big flaw in Mazzucchelli.
He only knows short people. I don't know.
His perception of doors is way off. Come on. And he's standing there with the billy club, and no words are spoken, but Kingpin just turns around, looks at him, and smiles.
Yeah.
Hey, you think, I like Kingpin, he knows Murdoch's coming, but he doesn't even change out of his purple underpants.
That's a power move right there. That'll intimidate you. Like, he's not wearing a bunch of armor or anything. He's just like, yep, I'm here in my underpants, and I'm still going to whoop your ass.
We get two panels of Karen slinking around an alleyway down to Mexico, and she, her life's a mess. She's trying to figure out what to do. But she wants to get back to Matt. That's her goal.
Anyway,
back to Matt. And then
it's not going to be a fun.
No, it's not. There might be more Trick's turn to get back to New York City.
Yeah.
And then we get Matt and the Kingpin starting their fight in the bottom of the page here, and Matt cracks him in the belly with the billy club.
It says FAP, which is like an unfortunate choice of on my feet there.
But again, just the natural flow of this fight is great. Kingpin tries a judo chop. Murdoch ducks it, cracks him in the face with a billy club. Blood everywhere on the Kingpin's face, but he's still just smiling and laughing.
Okay. He's still enjoying it.
Yep. And then we get another shot of Karen. And then we cut back to the fight, and Matt breaks the billy club over Kingpin's head, right in the side of the head. And he ducks under, and he goes to smack him again, and Kingpin grabs his arm, and just
now he's got his
beating the hell out of him.
Yep. Just fist after fist in the face.
And a right to the body, a left to the face, a right to the face. Matt's down, and Matt's saying, never give up, never. And we get a shot of Kingpin's arm being pulled back. Then a panel with red and black lines coming out of it. And then just one panel of solid red. So Cyclops
came in and blasted him with his eye.
But Kingpin, he wants to murder Matt Murdock, but he can't do it in his office,
Yeah, it's too suspicious. That secretary definitely knows who's in there.
And she's a good secretary. He doesn't have to kill her.
Yeah. Like he did all those other people that told him about Daredevil's identity.
So what he does is he gets somebody to murder a cab driver with the same billy club that was used to attack Kingpin, and then he gets the cab, the stolen cab, puts Murdoch in it, pours booze all over him, throws a bottle, booze on the seat next to him, and seals the doors, the special chemical, so to mimic rust.
Yeah.
So, get out.
Yeah.
And the seatbelt too, the connector in the seatbelt. He did the same trick there. So Murdoch is stuck in this cab, and then he just pushes the cab into the ocean or the river. And so, yeah, he thinks he's gonna drown. And so we see the cab under the water there in a close up, and the whole time this is getting narrated. The Kingpin's loving life now because Murdoch's dead. But then at the end there, we get a close up of Murdoch's eyes. He's awake in the cab, and
Yep.
So the next page.
Kingpin's having a great time until he's like, there's a narration box that says, "At last, the cab is discovered. There is blood and bloody evidence of a struggle. There is a shattered windshield, a safety belt severed by the windshield's glass, and what must have been a hideous effort of will. There is no corpse." There's a shot of his eyes. There is no corpse. A shot of him from the back looking over the city. There is no corpse.
Yeah. And now, he's not standing as confidently as the first time we saw him overlooking the city. His shoulders are a little sunk, and it's not the same feel of dominance. And then we turn the page, and we get a big splash page of a soaking wet, beat up Matt Murdock, stumbling down an alley with some bums and a garbage can. But he's back. He's not dead. And
Dun, dun, dun.
This is a great shot as well. Just the tilt of the walls there. It's great. So there it is. Next, Pariah. That's the next issue.
And actually, I guess we should mention, I believe that this incident here at the end of the issue is kind of plays a big part in bringing the Kingpin down eventually. When Matt finally gets his revenge in issue 300. Because, I guess the Kingpin was under indictment for something. I don't know, some cable news thing he was getting involved in that was also involved with Hydra or something. But, there was a senator who was like, well, I'll use my weight to get you off of this, but you got to help me with a personal matter. My cousin, who was a good guy, he was a cab driver and somebody killed him.
That's great. Yeah.
So he's like, I want you to solve this. And Kingpin's like, oh, I could do that.
I know.
I still have that billy club, and Daredevil's all over it. But then Daredevil shows up and burns the billy club before he can do anything with it. And there's all kind of videos of him with the Kingpin acting like a fool with his billy club. So yeah,
yeah, and that happens way down the line, like you said, issue 3. That was the last right storyline, right?
Yeah, that's right. And Kingpin ends up homeless for a while.
Yeah, they basically do the switcheroo where Daredevil comes back and ruins Kingpin's life. Kind of the same way.
Yeah. And he's kind of screwed for a good probably 8 years after that. he's not around for a long period.
Yeah, all right, so let's explain briefly what happens the rest of the storyline. You mentioned there was a police officer who testified against Murdoch, and he was actually being framed by the Kingpin. He had a sick son, so the Kingpin said that you testify against Matt Murdoch, I will make sure your son gets the treatment he needs. So that's why that guy was doing it. And
he's one of the most honest police officers, I think. That's why everyone believed it. They're like, oh, this guy's, he's really good.
And Matt figured out what was going on, but he didn't want to expose that cop because he felt bad for him because of the son and everything. So, then that kid, the kid though dies during surgery. Ooh. Right? So then that guy says, all right, I'll testify against Kingpin because Ben Urich's doing all this digging. But then the Kingpin's got this crazy nurse. Do you remember this lady?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Big crazy nurse.
Like Nurse Ratched, but she works out like the Kingpin.
And she beats the hell out of Ben Urich and this cop guy. And then she ends up killing the cop. and while he's on the phone with Ben Urich, and so Urich's now terrified he's going to die.
Yeah.
And he gets very involved. And then Kingpin, he knows Matt Murdock's alive again. So he comes up with a plan. Well, first of all, Murdock, after he digs himself out of the river, he ends up, who does he discover there, Jank? Do you remember?
Turk, isn't it? Turk's dressed like a Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah, Turk is involved. But I was kind of thinking the family connection that he finds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he gets his ass beat, and he gets found by some nuns and taken in to kind of, they kind of take care of him. And turns out one of those nuns is his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That?
Now, I wonder if that was that a mystery that people were wondering about at that point? Because it seemed like they never brought it up really at all. Like they just kind of glossed over the fact that, obviously Matt did have a mom at some point.
Well, I think it was like implied or even said that she was dead, right?
Yeah, I would assume so, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she was.
I didn't read the early stuff, so I'm not sure how they addressed that.
Yeah, so it turns out she just went away to the convent after she had the baby.
Yes.
Well, how about that?
And it's a great moment because he's just like, I don't even remember why he thought, like, he had this inkling that was his mom, but he kind of asked her, like, hey, are you my mother? And she, like, lies and says, like, no. And he's like, well, the heartbeat tells me.
Yeah. My mom's a lying nun. Hell.
Not the flying nun.
So then what else goes on in the story? Oh, so Kingpin wants to pull Murdock out and, draw him out so he can kill him again. So one of his ideas is to get a mental patient from an asylum, dress him up in a Daredevil outfit, and have him go kill Foggy Nelson.
Yeah.
And Matt intervenes. Yeah, because Matt's time with his mom heals him, and he builds himself back up, and he gets his mind restored, so he kind of knows what's going on now.
Yeah, he's now not quite as crazy.
And at the same time, Karen Page makes her way up to New York City, and she's trying to find Matt, and the Kingpin's men are still trying to kill her, and she also got to New York with a less than reputable fella,
Yeah. Not a fun time.
So there's a lot going on there, but Matt prevents Foggy from being murdered. It saves Karen from being murdered. Then Karen and him reunite, and then they try to start. He tries to get her clean off the heroin, and they get a little apartment. And do you think they're living with their rat buddy again? That same rat?
I hope so.
So do I.
Yeah.
I just hope the doorknobs are a little higher at this place, just a little bit higher. And Matt takes a job as a cook.
Yep. I think he pretends to not be blind, right?
I was going to say, would you want to hire a blind cook?
I think he's just like, yeah. And, he just goes without or he pretends he's wearing sunglasses all the time. Not that he's blind behind those glasses. He's just like, yeah, I like wearing sunglasses inside.
You have to be feeling your food all the time to make sure he's using the right stuff.
Actually, he was cooking in this week's episode of Daredevil Born Again, so strange. He was just kind of lifting up the lid and putting his hand over it. It's like, I don't know how that's going to tell you anything. Maybe if you're Daredevil, but
well, you can tell how hot it is,
Yeah.
So all right, so he's working as a short order cook, and then the Kingpin says, all right, I really need an idea here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get me one of them illegal super soldiers, some crazy super soldier named Nuke. He's got the American flag tattooed on his face, and I'm just going to have him come in here and blow up Hell's Kitchen. That'll get Daredevil to come out, and then that'll kill Daredevil.
Like a charm.
But Daredevil stops Nuke, and then Captain America and the Avengers show up at the end there to help out, and then Captain America wants to investigate this Nuke fella because it doesn't seem right,
And the heat that created him and Wolverine.
Yeah. So they're digging through that a bit, and then Daredevil says, what I need to do is I need to capture this Nuke fella, because they were taking him to prison, right? And they took him to prison. But he's like, I need to get him to, tie back everything to the Kingpin. But in trying to do that, Nuke ends up dying, right? He gets shot, and
Yeah,
And,
he's not dead though. He'll be back.
oh, they always come back. And
Yeah.
there's just that shot of him dropping Nuke's body on Ben Yarick's desk. And but they eventually tie things back to Kingpin. I can't remember how. Do you remember how?
I'm trying to look through that now. Next few weeks go poorly for the Kingpin of crime. One of the hitmen placed on the roof of the Daily Bugle
Oh,
names the crime lord responsible for Nuke's assault. Then from
yeah, Captain
everywhere, the
America.
charge.
Captain America got that guy. That's right. That's
Hmm.
yes. Everyone rats out the Kingpin, and he gets a lot of negative press. And I think they say, yeah, go
like
ahead.
shutting in, not taking his calls or stuff like that. So, yeah, it's not enough to like sink him or anything, but it's it's a stink on him that people don't want to be associated with him as much.
Yeah, it hurts him. Like he doesn't get arrested or thrown in prison or anything, but there's enough talk around him. Like, oh yeah, people aren't looking at Kingpin as like this upstanding businessman anymore. They're like, oh, this guy's shady. So, and that's pretty much where it ends. So
Yeah, yeah, and him and Karen are just starting a new life, and that's good. I love the fact that that's kind of where it goes for the next like 60 issues. It's a long time before he gets back to any sense of a normal life. Like this is the new status quo going forward.
yeah, because when Innocenti comes in as the writer, her and Matt and Karen, don't they open up a non-profit? And
Yeah, he's kind of like, it's like a law clinic, I think, where he's kind of like giving people advice. Like, I can't be your lawyer, but I can tell you what to do, basically.
yeah, that seems fishy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then that leads into the old Typhoid Mary stuff.
Yeah. Because just, he's barely got anything, but he's got Karen. And then they're like, oh, what if we take Karen away too? What if she hates him because he cheated on her with Typhoid Mary?
Yeah, Daredevil. What a life he's had. So, yeah. All right, so there it is, Born Again. The writing here is spectacular. The art here is amazing, and except for the doorknob placement, but otherwise,
Doorknobs, door handles, any kind of door paraphernalia.
But I haven't read this in so many years. I was a little worried, because it's like, oh, maybe it's not as good as, but no, it's still great. It's awesome.
I reread the whole thing, maybe 3 years ago, I want to say, and yeah, I was just constantly impressed at how good it still is.
Yeah, it's just perfect.
Yeah, you really couldn't ask for a better story. Like it sells you on how cracked his mental state is, and it just keeps coming and coming, and it's kind of unrelenting, but it's also, there are those brief moments of hope where you're like, oh, he found his mom, and oh, he's back with Karen Page. Like, that's cool. Like, it's not completely just grim, dark, and like, there's no hope. Like, it does give you little moments of victory, even though he does end up, being like changed for many years after this. But at least he's got, something in his life. So that's, it's got a little bit of hope.
Now, when you say he's changed from this year's after, do you think he started wearing purple underpants?
We can only hope. That's how you get stronger.
So, yeah, I love everything about this. This is my favorite storyline ever. So, yeah. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Yeah. This is as good as it gets.
It's the kind of storyline like you don't see in comic books because it's all normally you're all in the first act. Like you can never actually have major changes happen. Like this is the kind of stuff that happens at the end of the book, but it's never the end of the book because these storylines keep going on forever. Yeah. But they somehow found a way to do it here and then just kind of give him a new, status quo going forward. So that was, I don't know, it's very well done.
Yeah. So I'm guessing 10 out of 10 from you as well.
I might have to give this an 11.
Oh, okay.
Go Spinal Tap.
I thought you were going to go 9. I was going to smack you right in the mouth. It's all right.
I'll give it a 1. It's Mr. A.
It's no Quasar. No.
Yeah, this is amazing. I don't know that there is a comic book I like more than this, to be honest.
Yeah, this is my favorite. So, yeah, it's weird because I think right off the top of my head with something else I really like, the first Wolverine miniseries by Frank Miller.
Frank Miller's involved in a lot of the best stuff.
So maybe I should read that Dark Knight Returns. Maybe.
See, Come on, people, get to 500 so we can make this guy read this.
All right, Jank. Well, you got to follow this one. So what do you got for us next week? I'm sure it'll be just as good as Daredevil Born Again.
It will not. It's really not going to make this be quite as good. So instead, we're just going to go very different, although maybe in some ways the same, because this hero also looks like he may be living on the street. We've done like 4 Marvel books in a row, so I figured we better do a DC book. We're about due. We're going to do Ragman number 3.
Yeah. Ragman, because I thought about picking Ragman before too, and said living on the street. Like he's going to pick Ragman.
Nope, it's about.
You said Ragman number 3 from what year?
This looks like it says 1976/1977. So I don't know what that means.
We go 76.
Oh, it says January, so maybe it was right around the turn of 76 to 77.
They released 1 page a day for a year. They just kept it going. So
I'm picking this because it looks like it's got a good old-fashioned Gary Coleman foot chase for you.
That's right. Because I looked through, I was going to pick Ragman a year or so ago, and I flipped through it, and there is like a little Gary Coleman kid, right?
Yeah, and he's getting chased by some crooks. So, yeah. Figure this will be right up your alley.
Yeah, this will be pretty good. So, I don't know anything about Ragman.
I've seen him before. I don't even know what his power set is, really, to be honest.
Really good with a rag. Yeah.
He's very clean.
Need your car washed? He's right there.
Yep.
Remember when Soundgarden did that song about him? Oh, wait, no, that was Spoon Man. I'm sorry. Yeah, Spoon Man. Ragman. Anyway, all right. So that's next week here in the big show. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We appreciate the support. And until then, don't get any jank on you.